Hey, welcome to Nerd News Now for July 13th, 2020. Miss Jen, is it still 2020? Is it still July? I don't know what day or week or month it is, or year.
Hypothetically, someone posted a meme last week that just cracked me up so bad. It was, what if 2020 is just the trailer for 2021?
Yeah, well, here's the problem with that, though, because trailers are typically under fire for giving away the best parts of the movie. So if that's the case, we're screwed. I mean, if that's the case. So I got Miss Jen with me, of course, and
Yo! Hi. Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you for having me.
So yeah. I know a little bit about you as far as in you're from the Woodlands and you live in California, which I just said. Plus your name is Justin. Plus there's this thing called Kloss Studios. So tell us about that and graphic design.
Yes. Well, the reason that Miss Jen and I over here have become so close over the years in regards to, I used to say, hey, can I come out for free comic book day? And she's like, okay. And I would come out, and it's because I worked on some comic book movies that she knew of and that folks knew of and really loved. And so, yeah, I went to the Woodlands High School, went to Sally K. Ride, went to Cooper, went to York then over to the Woodlands, McCullough, then the Woodlands High School. Yeah, moved there in '84 and actually filled in the Lake Woodlands. I remember the day that Bigfoot was there. Cool deal. Fire hoses out there. It's like, that's the only memory I have of my childhood right there. Just filling in the Lake Woodlands with Bigfoot. That's all I got.
Tell us specifically about Kloss Studios and the movies that you mentioned that you've worked on. I know Deadpool is one of them.
Yes. So I came out here in 2011 to do freelance for all the studios that I thought. I was working in Dallas full time for 7 years at a place called Real Effects. Really cool house. They did the Book of Life. They did. They just recently did one, the Scooby-Doo movie. So I left there though, thinking I wanted to work on get more in with the studios that I really enjoyed, like commercial wise, and hopefully get my chance at some movies. And I was able to work on the first one was Thor: The Dark World, where I pitched that style with a place called Blur, and that's run by Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool. And so I got in with them in terms of they really liked my illustration styles. They knew that I could kind of handle some different styles and hopefully be good in the pocket when they had different concepts that needed to have handled, and they didn't want to go and get 15 artists. So yeah, the first one I pitched on was Thor: The Dark World, and they went with it, and I jumped for joy. And I did 65 paintings, and then 2 years later, Tim goes, hey, Justin, are you ready to do Deadpool? And I go, huh? He goes, well, you got to pitch on it, because I'm still having some other guys pitch on it too. And I go, some friend. Thanks, buddy. And so I still had to, obviously I came up with this little stick figure guy concept, and Tim goes, that's it. That's what I want. And so off and running 2 weeks later, I only had to work 2 weeks on it, wrote all the jokes for it. And then, I was going to get a chance to, and then it came out and it just killed. And so I was going to get a chance to do Deadpool 2 with them, but Reynolds and Miller hated each other at the time. And then Reynolds knew I was Tim's guy, and so it wasn't really up to me. But then I got to come back and do the Deadpool 2 Steelbook, which was really gnarly. But yeah, pitched on Avengers Endgame, pitched on Avengers #2, Thor Ragnarok, Captain Marvel. And so it's really cool to be in the capacity where somebody calls you up to help them flesh out a title sequence.
And then what are you doing now, obviously in a time where movie production is completely shut down, especially out there? What are you doing to get through this pandemic and quarantine?
Yeah, so that's one aspect of my business at Kloss. It's very much, we work on both titles for films. When I say we, I mean if I get a full project in, for the Book of Life, that was done by Fox, I'll hire out and get animators to help us out, and we'll jam it out and produce the whole thing. But I also do commercial stuff. And so I did the U.S. Army national campaign this year, that designed that entire campaign for 6 different cities, and then just jumped on Overwatch for the past 2 months for their fall esports, their Overwatch World League, I should say. So I know all the cities, know all the players now, so it's been really cool. And it's all very much like comic-y style, which is great. It's like super Kirby-ish, like massive proportions, really elongated, and it feels like my knowledge and like all the practice I've done with like figure drawing over the years has really churned into this Overwatch thing, which I can't wait for people to see because the animation's looking really sick. It's on sale, and I'm proud of it. So yeah, so you go between commercials and entertainment and films like that because yeah, you can't work on films all the time.
Right.
Secretly my favorite thing that you do are your squints.
Good. That's very nice. Thank you.
Got a series of books and art that he does, famous characters and people, but it looks like their eyes are squinted like, Brock from Pokemon.
Yes. Very Clint Eastwood-esque. Yes. And kind of like elongated proportions and very gestural. And those I actually just pitched on a Kawhi Leonard spot for Honey, where the Honey app I wasn't really familiar with, but I guess a lot of people use it to get discounts and stuff. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to use it now. Sounds awesome. And anyway, Kawhi Leonard, the place asked me to draw like that, Jen.
Oh, perfect.
It was sick.
No, that's Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers?
Yep. So it's really cool to be able to work on some guys that, I wish I could get some Rockets jobs. I was going to do some stuff for the Astros last year. I was actually talking with the Astros head of marketing about doing squints for each and every game of the playoffs. And it turned out they wanted to have something done in out in the streets, and so they hired a muralist with the budget that they were going to have me do an online marketing thing. Like every game, we're going to take the key moment that happened in the game, and I was going to draw it. And I was like, oh man, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but we'll get them next time. So.
I think you should make next time this time, because during the pandemic, they're going to probably want to hire someone that's encompassed safely. So I would reach that.
That's really true. I need to hit them up again.
Plus, sure. You could do the whole season, and it would be 60 this time. So it's never going to be this workload again. So straight back up to 162 next year.
Which to me, I think a 60-game season is about right, honestly. Baseball's so long.
It's ridiculous. It's it's 6 months long. There's 30 teams. Not even half the field makes it. And then you have hockey and basketball where over half the field makes it. And it's 82 and 84 game season, respectively. And then obviously football is only 16 games. Now football probably more brutal physically. But yeah, I would say if baseball could somehow agree to even cut down to 148, that would be a big win. But we'll see with that. And hopefully the season still happens, because it's they're not going to do the bubble thing. So the Astros are about to travel out, to the West Coast, I think the second week of the season. And it's well, I don't know how the travel is going to work, because both of those places might be locked down and require 2-week quarantines. So we will see. But so that's a little bit about you. But now we really want to know the important stuff. So we're going to have a nerd initiation, if that's okay. So here we go. Here we go with that. So Justin, question 1. Star Wars or Star Trek? And just to preface, there are no wrong answers, but it's just sort of the same way where, yeah, you're allowed free speech, but you may not be free from the consequences of that speech. But anyway, no pressure. Number 1, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. That was easy for me. Yes. Yes.
And in doing my research, I saw you tweet out a couple pictures of Harrison Ford, so I probably could have guessed that one. But today is his birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Han Solo.
Yes. I actually, he walked in front of me, and on that tweet, I put that in there. But this is one of the coolest, only name droppings I'll do here, because it was ridiculous. But he walked in front of me out of a store. I held the door for him. He looked like he should look. Like you would maybe see some people sometimes you're like, dang it, they don't look like the movies. He looked like a freaking movie star. Like you could tell he is who he is because of this reason. Anyway, I go, howdy, Harrison. And he just walked on by. I go, did I not say it loud enough? My buddy goes, he like looked at me like, I can't believe you said something. I'm like, I can't believe you didn't say anything. Why are you? We gotta. Come on, man. Like he knows that we know that who he is. Like I didn't ask for his autograph. I just said hi to him, and he just walked on. Then we just walked him. We watched him go across the street, and it was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna start walking like that. That's really cool. Yeah. So there's Harrison. So Star Wars. Plus my nephew is all about it right now. He's 4, and he's like, I'm Chewbacca, Yoda, and he does all the lines. I'm like, this is crazy. Good job for my little brother to get him involved in this so early.
Yeah, I think it's the easy franchise to get latched onto just because of the sheer volume of it. I mean, it on every facet of our lives, really, just everywhere.
Did y'all like the last one?
I did, yeah.
Yes.
I did.
Yes. Miss Jen?
Jen, what about you? What was your thoughts on 9?
I don't remember. Here's the funny thing. You guys are gonna laugh at me. My husband thinks it's hilarious too. So I have this weird ability I'll be watching a movie, and when it gets to fight scenes, they're all the same, right? So I sleep through them. So I like naturally wake up as soon as the fight scene's over. So if there's a lot of fight scenes in a movie, I don't really think that it has any kind of storyline to it. So I'll just be like, well, I guess that was an okay movie. I was asleep through most of it, I guess. Girls got to sleep where she can.
I hear you. I understand that. Make the action mean something and make it fun. A lot of the Marvel movies have such fun action scenes, you know? But, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, Miss Jen probably knows the difference between all 25 Bond movies, and I think there's only one. So, okay. That's fine. Okay, here's another big one. Number 2, Marvel or DC?
I'm not contractually, I can't say either way. I don't want to lose out on any work here. I don't want to.
Just say Image or Dynamite, Boom, whatever. Yeah, all of it, both. You can select both.
Let's go with Image. Yeah, that's what got me into comics in 92, 93, for sure. That was like the big one.
Was it Spawn?
It was actually, yeah, it was all, Wildcats, Youngblood, Spawn. I just was looking through them the other day. I mean, I had to run pretty deep until Capula came on Spawn. I had all those, and I'm like, oh, who's this new guy? He just apes McFarlane. Like, I don't like this guy. So I stopped doing that. But yeah, the Liefeld stuff, it's just outrageous now to look at the stuff, and it's so cool that, I don't know, it's so, I have them all still. It's so awesome. Yeah, but probably Marvel. That being said, Marvel.
It's a shame that Capullo's career never took off.
That's right. After that, right.
Okay, and let's go with a third big one: Lord of the Rings or anything that's interesting.
Well, clearly we see what you feel. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, a Dragonlance. That was they made a Dragonlance movie, I'm on board. And I think they were like they never get Dungeons and Dragons right. Like when they bring it to the big scope, and it's like do the first 3 Dragonlance. Dragons of Autumn, Breeze, or Summer Wind, or whatever the hell it was called. But the red one, I'm like, that was so good.
It's just I'm just not a really big fan of walking or volcanoes. I mean, if I'm going to watch a movie about volcanoes, I watch Joe and the Volcano. And then if I'm going to watch a movie about walking, I'll watch any other movie.
You got to understand. Yeah.
It's one of those series I've never been able to stay awake successfully in any of them.
Did you like the Game of Thrones?
Oh, I loved it. What
was the difference to you betwixt those two?
Probably just the action. I mean, for one, you're looking at like 52 to 57 minute increments. That's one thing.
Okay.
So if I'm going to a theater and it's just guys talking about breakfast and then a second breakfast and then a ninth breakfast and then walking and walking and walking, and they do this for 3 hours, and then there's like trees that are alive but they walk. See, on Game of Thrones, those trees were alive but they didn't walk around. So at least they were rooted like trees are supposed to be. Then the fact that you had just I don't know, interesting characters and wolf. Don't forget wolves. You have to have wolves, giant, dire like wolves. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Game of Thrones had a lot of stuff in it. I haven't fully come to accept the final season only because I don't think Daenerys was done right by that whole story, and I understand the whole aspect of that Targaryens, that's kind of their fate or their lot in life, but I don't know, it just seemed rushed for a show that had been in production for so long. It was so rushed. And going back to other HBO series like Boardwalk Empire, like Sopranos, a lot of them, the build up has just been so much better than the finale. And then and I'm someone who I absolutely love the Sopranos finale, which is not a popular opinion, but if you watch the premiere with the finale, it's a perfect 2-hour movie.
I would say forget them all and just watch The Witcher.
Wow, it's bold.
Was that? I mean, do you think that the thing about The Witcher is it's fresh, it's new, it's one season. So, get back to me after season 7.
Fine.
So you're recommending The Witcher, Jen?
Oh, so good. Have you not seen it yet?
I have not seen it yet.
Oh, it's one of those things that you just kind of expect you're going to watch it and think to yourself, oh, look, there's Superman with long white hair. But that's not what you think at all. What you think is, this is a hot, hot show.
Oh, okay, right. Show, not dude. Right.
No, it's more than that. It's got, which you'll find is that the hottest character there is a character called Yennefer, which when you meet her in the show, you won't believe me. But later on, you'll be like, okay.
You see it.
Yeah.
That Cavill can act. He didn't get to do much at all as Superman. I mean, at all. But if you watch him in that one by Guy Ritchie, forgot the name of it. Yeah, the whatever it was. You know what I'm talking about with Armie Hammer. He's freaking great.
Yep.
That dude's good.
I agree with you.
Is he going to be James Bond?
Well,
I don't know that. Well, so which James Bond do you believe that is only the one? I want to go back.
No, I mean, just in the same way where it's like there's one episode of Dragon Ball Z, like they power up every single episode. That's it. Like, what is like? There's 900 episodes, but there's only one episode.
Gotcha.
Like, I've seen. Oh, which episode of Dragon Ball Z have you seen? Oh, the one where he powers up all the time. Oh, you too. That's my favorite. The one where he powers up the entire 23 minutes.
Now,
so yeah, that's about it.
Could you say that about Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I could say that about Curb Your Enthusiasm, but that show fills me with such a sense of dread for humanity that I just hang on every episode. This season was fantastic.
Yes. I loved where he was asked to doodle.
Yes.
That was the best because I've been asked to draw before, and he was asked to draw or sketch. And he saw some people's drawings, and he goes, "That's a sketch." Whatever. Like he goes all super Larry David, but they're like, "You're doodling," and he's like, "It's a drawing." You know, I love that delineation. He's like, "It's not good enough." He's like, "It's charity." So good.
Yeah, the whole season with the Spite store was just awesome.
Yes.
Like that was fantastic. But yeah, so watch The Witcher. I should watch The Witcher. Here's the problem I had with The Witcher, Miss Jen.
Okay.
There is a deer that is in peril within the first minute of the movie, and it gave me like just flashbacks. The first movie I ever saw in the theaters was Bambi, and I was done. I was done for like 5 years.
Were you worried for Treyu's horse or what?
No. Well, that was later. That's through the mud pits. Yeah. That's as you've been eased into it. But like The Witcher, baby deer right off the bat, I can't do that.
Ouch.
I've never seen the final scene of Old Yeller. I've never watched I just turn it off with like 10 minutes to go.
Do you have animals?
That's the world I want to live into. I do not because I'm in an apartment right now, but I am an animal person. I can't. I don't even like living in an apartment, so I can't bring animals into this situation. Like, I just don't think it's fair. People that do it, that's fine, and I know that they're codependent and they need their animals. The animals need them. I don't want to dissuade anyone from ever owning animals if they properly take care of them. I just know, like, this apartment, it is not the square footage required for an animal to have the utmost joy. So.
Hmm.
But once I get a house with a backyard, yeah, I will have animals. Preferably a dire wolf.
I was gonna say, good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Straight to the top.
uh
A room to roam in Texas, let me tell you, with those yards, go for it.
yeah. Now so we talked about movies a tad there. There's not a lot going on, obviously. One thing of note that is fairly hilarious. Are you aware what won the box office this weekend?
Oh, I do know this. It's Empire Strikes
It
Back, right?
was. Isn't that crazy? Like, what is like
Where?
As it should
everywhere nationally? Yeah, it won the box office. I mean, it was released in 1,500 theaters. It made $641,000. Ghostbusters was the winner the previous week for a 5-day weekend. And then a few weeks before that in June was Jurassic Park. So I think the strategy here is to basically get people to theaters who have not seen these movies into theaters. So maybe by the time the parents grew up watching these movies and now they have children, maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and you feel safe to go to the theater. Like, hey, I'm going to show you this on the big screen. Now, I personally can't really think of any movies I would go out and watch on the big screen right now. I mean, it's just not. I was on edge if someone sneezed or coughed in the theater before all this. But that's just my personality. So I'm going to leave the seats and the spatial seating to everyone who really wants to go watch movies that came out 40 years ago. But yes,
Big quarantine for.
What now?
What I was wondering what movie would Justin break quarantine for?
Well, I was excited to see that Tenet may be coming out, but I thought it was ridiculous they even put a date with the thing, or they tried to. But I like how Nolan put in theaters this summer. Like, he really wanted to hit it home. Like, coming to theaters, listen, I don't care what you think, we're going to be there. And now it's like, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too quick. That'd be the one.
I think it's currently at August 14th. So obviously, if it moves one more time, it'll be moved out. But now, did California officially shut things back down today?
It's a freaking mess. It's an absolute joke. I don't know what's happening. They tell you, take your gloves off, put them back on, put it around, go back home. So yeah, it's all shut down. I don't know what that means though, because a lot of things they say are shut down I don't use. Like the governor he said that card rooms are closed, and I go, and this is on a tweet. He said. Yeah. Movie theaters, bars, card rooms. And I was about to say, no, not card rooms. Don't do that to us. I need to go do my old Western saloon style blackjack later on with my card room buddies. Like, what is that? So, I don't know. We'll see.
Are you sure he didn't mean Hallmark stores? That's the only card room I go to.
Yeah, Papyrus. That's right. It's just a bunch of papyruses. He calls them out by name.
Yeah, so... But no, in fact, yes, it was Empire Strikes Back that won. So the other question is, so we've had Ghostbusters, we've had Jurassic Park, and Empire Strikes Back. What other movie from about that era? Well, I mean, really anything 20 years or older, what do you think could win the box office? Like, if the bar is 650,000 on a 5-day weekend, what do you think they could release that people will go out and see on the big screen?
Like something kind of family friendly, like Twister would probably do it.
Twister might do it. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that was probably what, like 94 or something like that.
It's kind of like another national emergency film. So I'm not really sure that people are going to be rushing to have more devastation. But I was thinking, like, why don't they release Rad to more people? They're put it on iTunes, I guess. Now it's a 4K restoration. I saw a clip, still looks terrible, and I love it. But like something like that would be fun.
Well, I know the thing.
It?
I know it.
What is
Greek wedding?
Big Fat Wedding. That would do it?
Yeah.
Never seen it. Never seen it. Never seen it.
I'm going to capture you. Watch it now.
I'll put it right there with Witcher. Number 1 and 2. Double date, double feature. Drive it.
I think it should be Cool as Ice, starring Vanilla Ice.
What? No.
And I want to see if it can beat its original opening day. That's what. But in all seriousness, probably Back to the Future would be the best bet.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, but people have seen that so many times, and it's been released so many times, and because you got to think, like, at least here with Alamo Drafthouse, which who knows when that's coming back, but you've had all these theaters that show all the throwbacks, the classics, the niche films for so long. But I like the Twister one because I feel like that is something that doesn't get a lot of second run. So I think that would work.
I watched Close Encounters last weekend with my folks, and I hadn't seen it in probably, honestly, since I've been, old enough to appreciate that, right? Unbelievable effects for 77. Unbelievable art direction, design. But my mom had the best comment. After the movie was done, she goes, "So the aliens come down and they bring back Richard Dreyfuss?" I'm like, wow, zinger. That's it right there. That's it right there.
I mean, I don't know. He was really good at surviving shark attacks. Maybe that's what they went based off of. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Yeah. So I saw that at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Have you ever been able to see a screening there?
Yes. Yeah. Unbelievably cool time. It was during Halloween. I think we all went for something. It was Psycho. Yes. So great.
Yeah, it's such a good experience. Outdoors, obviously, but just with that weather there, that's always amazing. But yeah, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a great movie to see in that environment for sure.
But Back to the Future that you called out might be the perfect film. I mean, it really moved. There was no fat. It moved so well. And I actually got to see the cinematographer over here at Aero Theater about a year ago as a Dean Van Gundy, something like this. But anyway, he did Big Trouble in Little China also. And so, like, this guy's resume is ridiculous. And he was talking about the shots and everything and Back to the Future, and we were just all dorking out.
It's a really good film, and then the way they went, back and forth, and Back to the Future 2 was awesome. And then who can forget the Further Adventures of Jules and Verne, the cartoon? So you thought I was going to say Back to the Future 3, but I skipped it. Hey, here's another movie that I don't care about coming out: Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, so why can someone, Miss Jen? So you sell a lot of Mighty Morphin Power Ranger merchandise, right? But mostly in comic form nowadays. The last TV show from 2017 was not met with the audience fervor that they thought it would be. Obviously, been a dominant franchise in action figures and serial television for a couple decades. But do you think that warrants a big screen live action movie?
Well, I mean, if they don't do the weird costumes they did this last time, and they try to incorporate some of the stuff that's going on in the comic books right now, they have a major bad guy, Lord Drakon, and they've got some other crazy cool stuff happening. And they could totally do it. But I think that they need to work on their storylines. I think they tried to be a little bit weird this last time around. Just do Power Rangers. That's all they need.
Oh, you might hate this because the director attached, he does a lot of weird stuff. Because you mentioned a little bit weird. This guy's a lot of weird. I love the guy, but the director is going to be Jonathan Entwistle, who did now 2 comic book movies, but he did Into the Effing World and I'm Not Okay With This. I Am Not Okay With This was
That's
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
And those are two lesser known graphic novels. I don't know how that matches with the tone of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And honestly, if you've ever seen the fan made film, I don't need anything else on the Power Rangers front.
All right.
So,
Yes, I do remember that. And I thought that's what you guys were actually talking about. I think I saw the trailer for that, but it was a fan made one.
yeah.
It's well done.
Dark though, dark tone. That will not be the tone they're going for this wide release of this film. Well, Miss Jen, it says they're probably going to draw more on the past than the present. A lot of the costumes will be a lot of the costumes and Zords will be represented in it. So maybe they're going to do time jumps back and forth or multiverse type stuff. But it's going to draw on. It'll be 27 years, later, present day, but draw on everything that's led up to this point. So maybe, and then there's also some comic stuff in the works, but we'll get to that when we get to the comic section. And the last bit is also comics and movie. Did either of you get a chance to check out Old Guard on Netflix?
I still finish my Warrior Nun.
Oh, okay, yeah. I am going to watch this. This is a movie based on the comic by Greg Rucka. Now is that Image?
Yes.
So from Image, and this is it stars Charlize Theron, which is always a plus. She's the lead character. Andy. They are all these ancient warriors, and now they're in present day and on the run from Big Pharma, who is trying to capture them to basically monetize that element that they have that allows them to live forever. So it sounds awesome. And on the heels of this doing well, they have announced Atomic Blonde 2, of course, starring Charlize Theron. They just signed a deal with Netflix. So I'm just as excited about that. Although I do want an Atomic Blonde James Bond crossover called Atomic Bond.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I mean, and I would love to see her paired up with Daniel Craig, but since his time has probably come to an end after Bond 25.
Shut your mouth.
Just like that.
How dare you? I would say I got 3/4 through the Old Guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's she kicks so much butt in it. It's ridiculous. Thank you. Putting that down.
The sword is exactly the same.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Her axe sword thing is exactly the same as in the comic book. It's amazing.
Oh, sweetness. Very cool. Yeah, I dig it. I don't know anything about the comic. I figured it was a comic once you see it, but I didn't know about it. That one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're about to the point now where about every third thing you see, if not every other thing you see, is going to be based on a comic here pretty soon. Just with the amount of stuff that's getting signed and the first right deals that people like Brian K. Vaughan and James Tynion have, and Image and Amazon and Neil Gaiman, and just on and on and on. Like almost every other thing seems to be based on a comic, which I'm fine with because there's lots of great stuff. I would like them to start going back a little further, because now they're picking up stuff like it'll sell hot for 2 weeks and now it's got a movie. Like what about like Mouse Guard and things like that? Let's go back a little bit and kind of
yeah.
The Mouse Guard thing
has never had an adaptation.
Which one?
Bone.
I was going to say Bone. Say Bone. Yes, Jeff Smith. I would love to see that. Yes, for sure. But I heard that he signed it for something to be developed. But that's been like years and years.
Yeah, they have. It's just it seemingly takes all this older stuff so much time to get through this process. Probably because the ideas were already 100% done, fleshed out, and then you gotta sit there and figure out how to try to make that happen. Whereas if you got a new entity, you can kind of, okay, well, we'll start with this premiere issue and then kind of go off from where we want from there. But it's a good time to be a successful comics creator, because people have to be always knocking on your door to pick this stuff up. Because now we're going to have let's see, Peacock just launched, HBO Max just launched. There's something else that was another streaming service that was on its way. I'm surprised that Quibi hasn't picked up some graphic novels and comic books because you would think a lot of these fast-paced comics, issues-wise, could be almost made like an issue could be made into like a 9-minute short film.
Mm-hmm.
So
way more conducive budgetarily for animation for sure. If you want to go that route with it, which I'd love to see them stay in that world and not always jump to the live action realm, even though animation obviously costs so much more. But the effects that they put into the old guard, I'm really blown away by how much that Netflix, even though they didn't, I guess, produce it, Skydance did, but like they really dump a lot into the CG for these things. They, for the most part, the effects are strong. Like this has nothing to do with that, but do y'all see Eurovision with Will Ferrell?
yes, I did. Yeah.
I thought that movie could have been in the theater. It was well done. It's by the director of Wedding Crashers. It's funny, has heart. He's back to being Will Ferrell that you remember. Rachel McAdams is so good, and like the budget looks massive. It makes you want to move to Iceland first of all, like immediately. You go, okay. I mean, you can go dance all you want, but can I just go live in that town there? That looks nice, like really nice. So, yeah. Well, there's also this DC book I read recently that had Darkseid in it. It was called Century Man, Millennium. What is it? Millennium Man? You know what I'm talking about? There's a bunch of old Kirby stuff, Eternal stuff, and there's a I don't have to. Okay.
Was it Metal Man? Metal Man.
Possibly. I have it on my shelf. I'd have to, but anyway, I guess it's not that good. I can't remember the damn title of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the Marvel DC stuff has always lent itself to animation, but it seems to always kind of get scooped up by, Disney and then made into, a weekday morning or Saturday morning cartoon. And then DC had a lot of their entities being fleshed out into the cartoon universe, but that kind of ended with the latest Justice League Dark movie. So I would like to see more animated series.
I mean, Bruce Timm with the stuff from Batman and Superman, but like we do this thing with my buddies here that also are in the industry of like comics and kind of movies and stuff, and studio night where we basically watch old Todd McFarlane how-to videos and his current drawing videos and Jim Lee over-the-shoulder stuff and a lot of old Stan Lee stuff where he visited like Rob Liefeld on his set like back in the VHS tape of like at a Comic-Con back in like 92 or 93, I think. But there's just like a world with which like you see a Wildcats animated series and we're like, oh, let's watch some of that. Unwatchable. I mean, like some 90s cartoons are like, hey, it's cool, nostalgic. No, it's silly, it's fun. This is like, oh my gosh, this was made? But I don't know. I mean, but like they just kind of botched all the properties back then. Like Image, they got so hot, and they just kept making too much. But they're also too slow with the main books, and But that's a great documentary. The Image documentary on YouTube is fantastic.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yes, very fascinating. Old world that will not happen again unless I really hope there becomes like lines at comic book stores again. But my goodness, Jen, I'm sure you do as well. Like massive lines, please, yes. But it's like with all the Marvel movie success and all the DC things when they get it right, the rare instance they do get it right. Like you would think that people would go back and revisit comics where they came from, but kids are like, "Oh, Thor was a comic book," and you're like, "Yeah, you got it," but kind of upsetting sometimes.
It's interesting that the big blockbuster movies don't drive anyone into my store for books. It's the Netflix stuff. They came in for Umbrella Academy and Witcher and Lock and Key. That's what they came in for.
Is that because there's more of the sequential series aspect of it where there's more to dive into that they were more fascinated by? Or was it because the depth of the storytelling was different than the Marvel stuff or the DC stuff? Like, is there more for them just to explore? Because they think seemingly there's more to explore with a Witcher than let's say Iron Man,
I think maybe that they think they know about those main characters, like for Marvel and DC. I think they've been exposed to them a lot. They're like, I'm not going to learn anything new from it. But when they see these other characters, are like, when is this really? I liked the show. I want more. So that's what they're hunting for, the more thing. I think they're looking to look the back history about it. They're enjoying what they're watching, but they want to know what comes next.
Cool. Yeah, makes sense.
And I also think it's almost the opposite. Like when a graphic novel, when that's all there is of those characters, or maybe like in the case of Umbrella Academy, it's like what, 3 volumes max now, so 21 total issues. You're going into that rather than like, oh, this is Thor #1. Why is it #1? Hasn't Thor been around since '63? Yeah, well, this is volume 13, because every time a movie comes out, we got to relaunch it because we're hoping to draw people in, but then you don't, so you kind of like alienate the readers because it's like, oh, you got to buy the new #1 and the new volume with a new artist and a new writer like every 6 issues. You're really lucky nowadays with things like Saga, where it's been the same writer and artist for 30 some odd issues, but they have to take hiatuses because they're doing other things, especially someone like Brian K. Vaughan. So whenever his stuff finally makes it to the small screen, like when Why the Last Man finally makes it, that book's gonna blow up because it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's only there's like 60 issues of this. This is something I can actually sit down and read, versus 600 or 1600. The Effing in the World's a graphic novel. I'm Not Okay with This was a graphic novel. There's just all this stuff that you want to see how it it's just sort of the age old, like, is it better than the book? Is the book better than the movie? It's the same type. You've had this going on in book fans for ever since movies have been made, but now it's kind of new to comic fans because they're seeing like, oh, wait a minute, you translated, no, this book is 162 illustrated pages and you made it into a 90-minute movie. So I already know there's going to be more in this book, but I want to see what the differences are. The best example to me is Watchmen, because even though I thought the movie was about the best they could do with that insanely complicated story, if you pair that movie with that 12-issue graphic novel with the HBO series,
so
it's a phenomenal entity. And that HBO series just like was somehow able to take both of those, not insult your intelligence on either, and then like build it into something you never imagined possible.
It's so true. And every single one of those episodes of Watchmen kept getting better and better. And the sound editing of that episode where, what was the silver guy's name? Mirror dude. He slides into and under into the street there, into the vent, and you're like, oh my, the sewer. And you're like, when they had the music going with, I mean, this is fantastic filmmaking done for the. Again, we are so treated with some of these shows that put such production value into TV shows. They clearly see that there's so much money to be had, or whatever it is, in a way to entertain their audiences. But such a fine production. I only remember Watchmen's. My favorite thing about Watchmen is the opening titles. To be honest, it was great, but the opening title sequence was like legend in the title sequence design world for a while when that came out. So cool.
As far as the movie goes, I also think they nailed the scene that was the series of panels with Dr. Manhattan, sitting on the planet out alone in space. And the whole explanation of how he sees time and how that comes to pass, which of course was mastered on the HBO show with a god walks into a bar, which if you pronounce it wrong, you're going to ruin that episode for people. But I'll just say a bar and leave it at that. But it's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So, Miss Jen, when a TV show gets a lot of buzz like that, does that were people coming in for Watchmen based on the HBO show, or was it too hard to
tell? Watchmen's always been so popular. It's like a super evergreen for the store. We have to watch and make sure we always have like 4 or 5 copies because they'll disappear. As people like, you feel like everybody should have that in their collection by now, but as people like they're exposed to it in college often. Like people will make it required reading just because of the political nature of it, which is smart.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't for Watchmen. I don't think I've seen that drive between the show and the book the way that I've seen it for other small press stuff.
Do you think you mentioned specifically Umbrella Academy, and while they have powers in that book, I wouldn't consider that a superhero book.
Mm-mm.
Because it's not like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk. So do you feel that like with smaller publisher stories that those create more interest, or just in the sense of like someone wants to jump into a universe, Umbrella Academy, that's it. Like you don't have to. There's not going to be any crossovers. There's not going to be any just like tie-in books. It's just that. Like, do you find that they just like that simple, like, okay, there's 3 volumes of this and I'm done?
Maybe a little bit. I was just thinking about it in terms of what the age group they're aimed toward is. That maybe that when you look at Lock and Key and Umbrella Academy and those, they're aimed at a late teen, college age kiddo or young person that would have disposable income that they would want to come and get their own thing. That it's different than just the general audience. I mean, like, oh, it's just another thing to think about in their day. That there may be a little more cultured in what they're hunting down.
Mm.
Now, has any interest picked up in Doom Patrol because of the success not only with the first season, but now that it's on HBO Max, there's a lot more eyes on that season 1, and season 2 is phenomenal. So
people talk about it, but I haven't seen any uptick in the desire for the core material.
And also, those books are super weird. I mean, the show's super weird, but in like a good way. But the Grant Morrison stuff gets really heady. So and then the guy who wrote Umbrella Academy, which I was trying to see if there were tying. If I was trying to see if someone who came in to get Umbrella Academy would come back later and go, hey, Gerard Way wrote this. What else has he written? Because he just finished out his series on Doom Patrol. And I don't know if they connect the dots like that, because you may not, if that was one of the first trades you bought was Umbrella Academy, you may not be at that point where you're like, I have to get something else by this writer. You may not be thinking in that mindset. But typically, if I read like 2 good things by a writer, then I'm always going to want to read their next thing. So that's kind of my hook. So,
Did you get involved in comics early for the story, for the characters, for the art? Was it a combination of the 3? Because, where was it for y'all? Was it like a certain moment when you go, okay, I love this character, and then that opened it up?
For me, my early love of comic books was all Marvel. It just felt like real human drama. I like that that Marvel spent a lot of time on their character development and less time on the fight scene, which is what puts me to sleep. So I cared about them a lot, and I still to this day am super mad about Scott Summers. I wish he would just go away, because in the back of my mind, I always wanted Jean and Logan to get together. And it's never going to change for me because of the way that was what was going on when I first started reading the books. And so I have like a real emotional buy-in there.
And then for me was Spider-Man. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Iceman, Firestar, Stan Lee's voice, and then that was it. Like I was Spider-Man through and through. That I was done. And then I think 5 years ago now, I was in a situation where I was at Alamo City Con. I was eating breakfast. I was minding my own business. Stan Lee sits at a table 3 feet from me with a security guard, and he's just talking. Stan Lee's talking to this guy the whole time, and I'm just like closing my eyes, listening to his voice going, this is so surreal. And then some guy in a suit came and bothered him for his autograph while he was eating his oatmeal, and I was like, don't do it, dude. But I couldn't stop.
Oh, that's such a great memory.
But it was just so surreal, because like you're not trying to eavesdrop. You're just like, oh my gosh, this voice of my childhood is like talking, not talking to me, but I just you can't block out that voice. Like it was just a one of a kind voice. It's like, uh, yeah, but that was it. And then Larry Hama on GI Joe, like Marvel Volume One, and that was probably more through the toys and Snake Eyes and my whole thing with wolves. You know, Snake Eyes had his pet wolf Timber. But that Marvel run was fantastic. The cartoon.
Yeah, I know he does.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
OG Snake Eyes and Flint up on my shelf, my trophy shelf here. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I can't remember who made them, but I've got the mini bust of Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, and Scarlet on my bookshelf. So I'm super excited they're finally making a 6-inch GI Joe.
Are they really?
Oh, they are. Like the classifieds, just in the same mold as from Hasbro, same molds as the Marvel Legends. So
well, wasn't that that's how big they were originally, right? And then they were called like figures, or they didn't want to be called dolls. I love that Toys That Made Us. They go, we don't want to be called dolls. That's what Barbies are. These are action figures, you know.
Yeah.
And they were bigger, and they had the cloth, everything, and then they made them smaller because they had like the bodies of some other toy, right, or something.
Yeah, and it always had to say Kung Fu Grip.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah, they were the 8-inch dolls. These are more like the current Marvel Legends line, so 32 points of articulation, all that stuff. But that was it. Spider-Man and GI Joe. That's what got me.
Happy with the way Spider-Man has been depicted in the films, and which ones are your favorites? Which actor?
I'm a big fan of Tom Holland.
He's cool.
I think that's like the kind of the young, naive Peter Parker running around a high school, and then I liked Tobey Maguire. I mean, I like Andrew Garfield as an actor. I just thought it was just convoluted, and the whole Gwen Stacy thing. It was cool to see that on the screen, but I don't know if they earned it. And then it's like, what do you do from that point on? I mean, Spider-Man is just such a complicated character, but to me, it doesn't get any better than the second one with Tobey Maguire, the Dr. Octopus. It was amazing. That's how you write a comic book movie. Like that's it.
I knew clearly what I wanted until I saw Miles Morales, and then my heart was fully taken over. Man,
oh man, yeah. I need to watch the Tobey Maguire ones again. My buddy's working on Spider-Verse 2, and he was a concept artist for the first one, and he was a Dallas guy also. His name's Yashar Kasai, and he's in charge of. Can I give a spoiler alert? Do you guys care? You already know this. It already teased it in the last one. There's a future verse. Not a big surprise.
Talking about McGee.
Yeah, but so he's the head of concepting for that future verse right now, and we hung out on Saturday, socially distant, of course, with the mask on. But he was telling me how much pressure he's feeling to reinvent the artwork of Sid Mead in a way that has not been seen before on screen. And I'm like, God, dude, are you sleeping at all? Like he just is feeling it, because even Phil Lord or Chris Miller came out and said on Twitter that the new movie makes the old movie right now look quaint. What he's seen from Spider-Verse 2 makes the old one look quaint. But that's what I really liked about the Spider-Verse. It was a kid in Brooklyn. It was small. I mean, it was an uncle, it was a dad. I mean, who did that? That movie was so powerful and visually unbelievable. Unbelievable. Still get referenced that constantly from clients asking if we could do something like Spider-Verse on style frames. And they're talking about the cutscenes that Alberto Mieglia did before he left, the guy that did The Witness for Love, Death, Robots. He left because, and he actually, this is a story that he left a blow-up Spider-Man in his chair with a noose around its neck, and he said, "Death by lack of vision." And he left the project, and then they aped his look, and that's the way that he draws, and he does these kind of freeze frames of that kinetic, like halftone dot pattern with like the typography behind it, and just like so radical in the middle of a CG film that you've not seen before in an animated piece like that. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad that Miles Morales spearheaded that one. That's the way to do it. Like, it was so much better to be in like such an innovative film, and everyone's just like, "What is this?" Than just kind of putting him as a tertiary character in like the third Tom Holland movie or something. So I really wish that they would maybe on the DC side would be great, but just they would try to reinvent themselves like that with like those animated features, and it just doesn't happen as much.
DC is just so all over the place with their films.
Yeah,
Joker to me rocked. So did so many other people, loved it. Then you go Justice League, dreadful. If we see Superman punch through one more building, you talk about boring action, Miss Jen. Superman versus Batman had the most boring action, or Justice League, whatever it was. You combine them, they're the same movie. I don't even know what's happening. You know. And does anybody really think this director's cut of Zack Snyder's going to be? It's if it's still the same footage. What are you going to cut? Now they're teasing Darkseid in it. That's not a director's cut. That's called a new movie.
Yep.
They're putting like 50 or 70 million into like redoing, and you're going, well, what? What? I don't know, man. I think Snyder's the best when he uses trade paperbacks as his templates. 300, Watchmen. Just follow the formula. When he's left to his own devices, I think he's a hell of a salesman. I think he can talk his way out of any room. I think that people want to believe him. I think he speaks very eloquently. I think he's very charming. And I think he won over DC and Warner Brothers. And I think that those movies were garbage. And did you see what's like coming out with like Cyborg saying that Joss Whedon was a weirdo and stuff on set? Like all kinds of stuff is going on now with that. It's like wild. So yeah, I also did see that, you know, you're talking about X-Men with Jean Grey. I would hope that what you're talking about happens with Disney's new Marvel Disney taking X-Men and maybe figuring out how to catapult that into that realm, Miss Jen, which would be really cool. You know, a new Wolverine, all these characters, you know, potentially.
Let's do it. There's a lot of more storylines that they've got out there. They can totally. They've got years and years of material to still use.
I'm as far as Disney and Disney Plus go, I'm really excited about the What If series, because then we're getting like 30 animated episodes from the Marvel universe, and I'm sure people are going to be snatching up those What If issues if they haven't already. But that's the kind of thing I want to see more of. Like I want to see the Moon Knight series. I want to see Miss Marvel. I want to see She-Hulk. I just want them to delve fully into these characters.
Who signed on for Moon Knight? Didn't they cast him or no?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, they still have. I mean, same as far as I know with Miss Marvel and She-Hulk. Like no big casting news. Like Kate Bishop had been rumored for a while, but then the Jeremy Renner stuff popped up, and now they don't know what he's going to be doing
right
in that show, and so yeah, and all this stuff has been sidelined too. Just like they're just trying to figure everything out going to the future, because they've had to push back all the studio films. I mean, Black Widow was supposed to be out in April, and now is it November, December? I don't know. I'm hoping that they don't get pushed back till next year, but I mean, we're like 2 clicks away from that happening.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, hey, this has been awesome talking to you about all this stuff, and clearly we just all geek out about this every week, but it's fun to have someone new, so when I tell my Dragon Ball Z joke for the 90th time, it might get a chuckle. So Justin, thanks for being on, and Miss Jen, we've already gone an hour, but just hit us with some comic book stuff to look forward to. Whether it's, I know you did your orders 3 weeks ago, but if anything big on Wednesday or the next week or the weeks to come.
I think it's Empire #1 this week.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's another big #1 that I can't remember what it is. No, my brain. My problem is that before the show I do FOC, which is final looks at books 3 weeks out. So I remember that more because I just looked at that.
Oh, and Miss Jen, speaking of Empire, you were on the Marvel YouTube channel on Paul Scheer's show, and
Paul
you were
the dude.
And you were awesome on there. You were awesome. Like when he asked you to talk about Empire, it was like, yeah, that's Miss Jen. There you
My
go.
favorite thing to do is to go on interviews with people that don't know me or how long I've been in the industry. And they ask me a question, and I'm sure they're thinking I'm going to give the pat answer. I really liked X-Men #1. Wolverine's butt. No. I'm like, I'm deep into the lore. And you can see it in his face when he asks those questions. He's like, what just happened?
Cool.
Yeah, but that was on
So great.
Marvel's YouTube channel with Paul Shear, and I think it's World's Biggest Book Club, the most recent last week's episode. So check that out. And then we got some Venom news, which has been a trend all year with Donny Cates, of course. The King in Black.
Yeah.
So that's going to be due in December. Know anything about that yet?
It's really made everyone want to buy everything Venom, especially Venom #3, which has the first null. And then his last issue of Thor is supposed to like destroy our minds. So it's like fever pitch right now for all those books.
Yeah, so this is basically Null being awakened and fighting everybody, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're pitching it as. There's going to be tie-ins. There's going to be its own miniseries. Issue 1 of that'll be December 20th. So that's something to look forward to.
Yep.
And then Charlie Adler's new book. I'm excited about it. Digital only. But he's doing another pandemic book. Have you heard about this yet?
Oh no! Tell me more.
Going from Walking Dead. Now this might. You were talking, Justin, earlier about maybe being too much on the nose with Twister as far as disasters and stuff. But Charlie Adler is betting that you will read his book and art about a pandemic, and it is called Planet Divock 91. So obviously COVID-19 in there, and it's basically if you're between the ages of something like 18 and 26, there's a pandemic on Earth, and you were shipped off to this planet to try to save humanity. He is doing this with a number of well-known artists. I remember Leslie Hung, which Snot Girl, and then I think there's a lot of big artists and writers over there. But this is going to be digital only. It's actually funded by several scientific organizations over in the UK. So this is supposed to be like educational and kind of open your mind to, hey, the pandemic is serious. Please take this seriously, but within the story of, outer space and monsters and things. So that's going to be available on Webtoons this Wednesday, July 15th, for free, at least for the first issue. So,
rad, very cool. I will go back on what I said about Twister, by the way, because I realized I watched Contagion the second month of lockdown, and I loved it. I was like, this is a documentary. How'd they do this 10 years ago? This is crazy. And they just said that was pretty good. They just said the Who. Oh.
And then Outbreak was trending like 2 months ago, too. So I guess people just like to, I don't know, be in that mind of thought. I don't know.
Yeah. At the end, you go, see, I told you it came from a pig, just like that movie. That's what the movie did. That's where it came from. Got it.
Well, Miss Jen, anything else to wrap it up?
No, I can't think of anything. It's been a crazy week, man.
Yeah, well, it's been a crazy year, month, day, whatever this is. It's been a crazy decade. Starting in 2020. Yeah. So, and Justin, what about you? Any last nerd thoughts, or and please let us know your website and anything you're coming up on work-wise.
Sure. It's Klaus Studios across all socials. It's CLAUS like Santy Klaus. Studios.com and on Instagram. Look out for the Overwatch marketing stuff, Overwatch commercials, and all their graphics for the fall OWL on NBC. I think it's going to be on. Just crazy to think about esports that big, but that's going to be rad. And the Army stuff is out there now on YouTube, which I designed, and hopefully we get this Kawhi Leonard thing. So we'll see. But other than that, I'm still just I can't wait for Comic-Con online. I think I'm going to have a virtual booth on Saturday. I miss it so much, and a lot of the folks on Twitter if you fall, I'll be going live on Twitch and have a bunch of prints and things, and probably doing some commissions, most likely Deadpool. And so we'll go from there. But yeah.
But will your mom be there? That's the only thing I care about.
I know. That's what everybody says. Thanks a lot, Jen. Thank you, Miss Jen. I'm going to go now. See you guys. I'm just going to go and fall out this window real quick. But she loves it. People like her like that. And then she signed autographs before, and she goes, "Oh, don't you remember that I signed it too?" I go, "Mom, I know you did. In fact, this dude had me sign this one DVD with Ryan Reynolds' autograph on it. I signed it, and then he goes, have her sign it." I go, "Mom, sign over his name." She goes, "No, I think I should. He's a real jerk." It's pretty cool. So she writes Justin's mom. Too good. Anyway, thank you guys so much for having me. Really, you guys are awesome. So stinking knowledgeable and fun to dork out on these things. It's really cool.
Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you, Miss Jen, as always, and thank you, the audience, for watching Nerd News Now, part of the Kingdom of Geekdom on Woodlands Online, sponsored by Space Cadets Collection and The Adventure Begins. Be sure to check out our other shows on Woodlands Online: Taste Buds, Music Cafe, Adventure Begins Show, Woodlands House and Home, The Best You, Weekly Fallout Sports Talk, and Between the Trees Business Talk. You can watch these on woodlandsonline.com and on our partner station KBQT HD 21 over the air on your TV. All these shows and more on Roku right now. Just go to Roku, search Woodlands Online TV, and add that channel to your streaming lineup. You can also listen to the audio versions of our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you get your podcast from. See you next time on Nerd News Now.
Well done.